Air Force as well. I'm very honored to be joined by the base commander here, Air Commodore Sayyid Inamullah, Sitara Imtiaz Military, who's very gracefully given us time, and we'll be talking to him as well. Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you
Sir,
very much.
first of all, thank you very much. I'm honored that we have gotten your time and, of course, to talk to you and to know more about the history of this place. So thank you very much, first of all.
Thanks to you for coming all the way.
Right, sir. So first of all, I'd like to know the significance of this very base that we are in, because just a short while ago, you just highlighted that it's a very historical moment for this very base as well this year.
Exactly. Amit, first of all, thanks for coming all the way and just meeting our boys, our pilots, engineers. Yes, Peshawar is a historical base, and this year, 100 years of PAF Base Peshawar. Then it used to be Royal Air Force Base Peshawar. It was established in 1922, so this is exactly 100 years. And all this 100 years have been quite happening for the base, one way or the other. So if we just go into the history, perhaps there would be a lot to discuss. But it has taken operations in Afghanistan and all over, and in all the three wars that we were engaged, this base had its big role.
Strategically very significant, as we know this base is as well. Sir, 57 years now since that historic day in 1965, and often when I get a chance to talk to people from the Air Force and also war veterans and people who have been involved, this day tends to live on in our memories. How would you highlight that significance of that day, especially for Pakistan Air Force, the first time ever the country called, and of course the Air Force answered to the call of the nation?
A huge responsibility. Still, till date, it is a huge responsibility unto us. And if we see that time, the way we responded for the nation, whatever we did in 65, that is part of the history. And it's not only for us, it is even for the world. It was a model that was that a smaller Air Force taking on much bigger Air Force and then delivering to the nation. And since then, the challenge is not that how did we do it. The challenge is that how we still maintain our legacy and how we still maintain our position. So that still remains very important.
Of course, historic day for Pakistan Air Force, and that memory, sir, how important is it to keep it alive? Because obviously we have so many things to cherish from 1965. But for the younger generation, especially now we're coming to times where the younger generation of Pakistan might not be that up to date with our glorious history as the past generations have been. How important is it to at the same time celebrate it but keep it alive in a manner that that historical element stays alive?
I think absolutely important. They say that the history is the best teacher. And what best you can have if you have a good history? It is something you just cannot change. Future, yeah, you can make some efforts and you can do something better. But the past, if it is already glorious, that is the heritage that you inherit. So it is very important, and we definitely take very much pride in it. And our younger generations, our officers, young officers, even the cadets, at every level, they are very proud of our history. And to tell you honestly, it's more of a passion and less of a profession. So if there is no passion, if there is no linkage back to the history, and if there is not passion to do well, perhaps it's not a place for somebody to be.
Every young child or young boy who, or of course girl who goes to join the Air Force in the academy, has that sense of responsibility. You must remember your times at the academy as well.
Exactly.
So at that time, there is a vision going that we want to serve the nation. And then of course, with time, that vision only increases, that desire only increases to serve the nation. How would you recall that time from the academy up till now, that hunger to serve the nation whenever the country hearkens in times of peace and in times of war?
Like I said, it's a passion. And if the passion fades away, perhaps nothing left. And as you grow and as you progress in the service, The good part is the passion keeps rising. If you see our even leadership, the highest leadership in the Air Force, perhaps they are the most passionate people around. The way they are handling the Air Force. And the Air Force has been very lucky in that regard, the kind of leadership that we have been getting till date. So that passion is the driving force, is the biggest driving force. Rest everything you can change. You can induct new aeroplanes, you can get new people, you can change the training dynamics. But the passion in human, that is the fundamental
And that
thing.
comes from top, as you
That
mentioned.
that all the way top down, everybody is passionate. And everybody, I would say, if I don't want people to work even after late hours, they would even fight with me that, no, how can you say that I go home? I want to work for... These days, you know that we are in a flood state. And I
Absolutely.
really have to hold people. They want to do operations and they want to do relief operations at the same time.
Simultaneously.
So that's the kind of passion that we have. We are for the nation. So come what may, that remains the paramount.
Sir, because you mentioned this point, this is of course the nation has called once again. The country has hearkened for its Air Force, and of course these are times of peace, but at the same time a huge natural calamity has struck us, and obviously we have downgraded our celebrations because of these reasons as well. Talk us through the relief operations that Air Force has been carrying out, especially from this strategic location, because we know Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been affected at large because of the floods.
Uh, to start with, we are always trained in multiple domains. And we are good at handling multiple taskings. That's what we are good at. So even if we have to take a couple of actions simultaneously, that would not make any difference. We are operationally ready, and you have seen the day. Everything is going as per normal, but at the same time, almost the same magnitude is in the field with the people all around the poor villages and doing the relief operations. So even if we have another contingency, God forbid, we are still ready, and so on and so forth. So that is the strength of the Air Force. It's not that we are unidirectional. We can handle multiple fronts at the same time.
And that's very interesting because, like you said, and we witnessed throughout the entire day as well, that the operational activities or training activities were continuing simultaneously.
Exactly.
Being focused on the flood relief activities as a priority is still there, but it did not affect the normal schedule.
Exactly. Like I told you, it's multitasking. And if we have 10 tasks, yes, we can prioritize them, but we can handle them simultaneously.
Absolutely. Now, sir, coming to a crown jewel of the Pakistan Air Force that we celebrate is that we are one of the few indigenous air forces in the world. Over the years, we have developed capabilities of not just producing our own aircraft, which is, I think, a cornerstone of Pakistan Air Force, but at the same time, overhauling, avionics, engineering. We can think of any domain that a modern Air Force possesses, and we would be working on that. How important is it in this modern time, and especially for Pakistan Air Force, how does it act as a strength that we are a step ahead in indigenization?
This is a very good question and a very pertinent for an Air Force like ours. If we go see last 20, 30 years, we see that there has been a specific trend sometime. We get something that we need and sometime we are left high and dry. So whenever the situation is, the only solution that we came up with is the indigenization. I mentioned before, it's our leadership. Throughout, the Air Force has been very, very lucky to have that kind of a leadership. Those who could foresee and those who could predict that what is going to happen in the future. So it was in the 90s, if I just come to our crown jewel, which is, I would say, is JF-17. That is one thing that we can showcase to the world. There are tens and other projects, but that is one thing that everybody knows of. So I would say that it was in the 90s that we were not getting the hardware that we actually needed. And that was the time the leadership started, and the whole world made fun of it, that how is it possible that our Air Force is going ahead to develop an aircraft. and but it was the will and the resolve. If you have a will and you have a resolve, perhaps, then you don't have boundaries. Then there are no limits. Then you define your limits, that where do I want to go. So now it's a reality. It is as good as any contemporary fighter jets of the world. It can compete, it can perhaps compete any aircraft right now, modern aircraft of the world. So that was just one example. You come to the, in terms of indigenization and the weapon development, that is a very, very specialized job. Again, we were left with very few options. So, air weapons complex is again such an example, that we had to start our own business for the manufacturing of the weapons. And now, alhamdulillah, we are at a stage that we don't have to see toward any other country in terms of any hardware.
Self-reliance.
We are self-reliant, and that is a big plus. Even today, you don't find any example. Air Force is making weapons and Air Force making aircraft. That is only exclusive to Pakistan.
Now, the crown jewels are GF-17, not just for our own defense, but from an economical point of view for Pakistan. It has become, I think, one of the hot topics in terms of the deals the Air Force has been able to secure with the various air forces of the world.
Honestly, it's like a hot cake. I mean, so many countries around the world, they just want to have it. But since it's our first product and the production and all those things, and then our own requirement, our own environment, that also plays in. But in the long run, this aircraft does have the capability that it can even create an economical impact onto the national economy.
Sir, as a sovereign country, we must keep an eye on our surroundings as well, not just the neighbors, but the entire region and the world. So, considering the dominance there in terms of the sheer volume and the capabilities in terms of, if you talk from the economic perspective as well of the region, we of course had to arm ourselves, if not equal, then at least at a stage where we stand ever ready to defend. And of course, it's not just the resolve like you mentioned, it's about being indigenous and at the same time as well. So would you obviously comment on this and easily say that, keeping in mind the requirements of the region, the regional dynamics, what the neighbors have been doing, what they've been procuring at the same time as far as air hardware is concerned, we have been matching them at every level and sometimes even outperforming?
Ahmed, don't worry about the neighbors. 10 out of 10 times, I guarantee. So just don't worry about the neighbors. You have seen it's not long past 27th of February 2019. It was just one day and then they couldn't respond second time. So, but yes, it's the, like we started, that it's the operational readiness which is important. We don't want to fight a war. But if a war is thrusted upon us, we're not worried. On any given day, rain or shine, day or night, 365 days, we are up there. And the nation, the people of Pakistan, they should have believe in us that we can deliver them, not only in war, but also in peacetime for any contingency.
Yes.
If they have such a big hope on us, so this responsibility on us to deliver back.
Definitely. It's like what is mine, what is yours is negotiable.
Yes.
So the saying really goes well, and of course, I think not just 65, but even in 2009 as Swift Retort, we remember it, and of course we brought you that as well. We have proven not just to the region but to the entire world, because the founder of the nation, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, said an Air Force second to none, and I think we can very much say an Air Force second to none. Now, sir, of course, with the relevance of 1965 and at the same time, like we say, a natural calamity has struck us as well. There are many things that are evolving in the region, not just on the environment side, but a technological revolution that has gripped us all. As a nation, of course, it is a time to be united, to set aside all our differences and gather up the spirit and, of course, the values on which this great nation was built upon. What message would you like to give to your nation, to people who look up to Pakistan Air Force as air warriors and defenders of our air frontiers?
Ahmed, for the entire Pakistani nation, my message is that, like the Qaid said, that we have to have an Air Force which is second to none. We have been the best, we are the best, and inshallah we will remain the best. And this best translates into that the nation can sleep tight and we will be awake all this while. But for us to progress into a developed world, perhaps we need to do much more in all the other domains. And rest assured that we have that kind of capability, we have that kind of resolve, and we have that kind of a human resource. It is just that we just follow the right direction.